Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining our webinar, How Direct-to-Consumer Brands Drive Revenue Through Digital. I'm your host, Amit Thaplial. I'm the Director of Marketing at All2Do. A quick introduction about us. We at All2Do are a one-is-to-one experience company. We bring together deep MarTech expertise, CX and demand generation strategy, engagement analytics, and cross-channel orchestration to drive business uplift. Before we begin, a quick note to the audience. During the webinar, all attendees will be muted. Should you have any questions for our panelists, please use the questions widget on your attendee interface, and we'd love to take all these questions right at the end of the webinar in the Q&A session. Do you know what's common between brands like P&G, Gillette, Dollar Shave Club, and many, many more? These are some of the many, many brands that succeeded in a crowded brand space and captured consumer loyalty by rethinking not just their marketing, but also their retail model. To discuss more on this and how successful brands are leveraging D2C business to build intimacy with their customers, creating contextual, personalized experiences to scale up, we have on our panel today Rahul Khosla, CEO All2Do, and our guest panelist Diresh Jetwa, CIO of Dorel Group. Rahul, Diresh, welcome. Could you please give us a quick introduction to the audience?
Sure. Hi, folks. This is Rahul Khosla. I'm the CEO of All2Do. We help organizations drive customer experiences. I've been working with brands over the last 10 years, helping them with a variety of strategies, and in the last few years in particular, helping them go direct to customers and to consumers to ultimately shape not only customer intimacy, but driving revenue and commerce. I'm also a co-founder of Critique, which is a video review platform that's used by brands across the world, and it won a top 20 award for innovation by Walmart. So pleased to present today, and pleased to present with Diresh. Diresh, over to you.
Hi guys, good afternoon to everybody. My name is Diresh Jetwa. I'm CIO at Dorel Sports and responsible for global systems. Dorel Sports, we design and manufacture bicycles, and we have a broad range of brands around the world, which includes Cannondale, Schwinn, GT, Mongoose, PitTrax, etc. I personally have been in IT for over 25 years with extensive experience in ERP and digital systems, and also more importantly, how to connect the systems together front to back. Again, pleased to be on this webinar, and glad to have some input.
Thank you, Diresh.
Rahul, over to you.
Great. I think it's a common fact. Everyone knows that commerce is changing. It's really driven by shoppers. Shoppers want to buy online. They research online before they buy even offline. An interesting fact is 55% shoppers look up soaps online before they buy it even offline or potentially even online. So the journey quite often starts online, and as brands start to understand how these journeys begin, they can engage customers across their customer journeys. So what we're seeing is that the buyer has fundamentally changed. This new buyer is expecting different experiences. One of the things that we're seeing is that the buyers expect to engage directly with brands. They want to build relationships with brands, so much so that they're engaging with their social media platforms and on their sites. So they are building these relationships with brands. And I think what's important to these customers more than many other things, one of the things that's most important to them is convenience. They want information when they need it. They want products to be delivered to them as quickly as possible, quite often within a day or two. And I think one of the things that brands are starting to recognize is that these customers, unless they understand these customers, they're not going to be able to build customer intimacy. So as we think about how brands and customers are evolving, there is an opportunity from a direct-to-consumer standpoint. There's an opportunity to increase revenue growth dramatically. We're all familiar with brands like Casper Allbirds, who've grown dramatically using a direct-to-consumer strategy. You can improve margins as you're going direct. There's very few middlemen for you to work with. Market reach, you can expand into new markets a lot faster using digital. You can also understand customers better, and then you can build relationships with these customers. So the paradigm is shifting with a direct to consumer opportunity. And I think what we're seeing is that we're moving towards this experience economy. And what's really happening with direct to consumer, the core value proposition is that you can understand the whole customer journey as a brand, and then you can start to exchange value in terms of content, in terms of experiences, and ultimately win their loyalty in terms of revenue. As we shift to this experience economy, there's quite a few winners. We're seeing the likes of Dollar Shave Club, Tom's, Warby Parker, Casper dramatically increase revenue, go into new markets. Some of the numbers that you see here are phenomenal, but that's what we're seeing across the board. So there's quite a few winners. We have the likes of Dollar Shave Club who've taken market share away from the likes of Gillette, whose market share has dramatically dropped in the last few years with the execution of a pretty interesting strategy from Harry's and Dollar Shave Club. So there's a lot of winners, but on the same token, there are headwinds. We see that Amazon continues to take market share away from all types of retailers and brands. There are new entrants coming into the landscape all the time. And we're also seeing that old distribution models aren't working. Customers have different expectations. And we're seeing more failures than success. There's a lot of brands being launched. So for every Harry's and Dollar Shave Club, there's hundreds of brands that don't execute their strategy well. So the question to ask ourselves is, how do we drive success? How do we build together a strategy as a brand and execute it in a way that ultimately leads to better business results? So while there's a variety of things you can do, there are four key pillars that organizations must consider as they take their brands direct to customers and consumers and actually build relationships and drive revenue. It starts with knowing your customer. Unless you know your customer intimately, you're not going to be able to drive results because you will not be able to give them the experience they expect, which is simplified, which is value driven, and is personalized. And to drive that type of experience, you need the right type of technology that ultimately delivers better results. And you also have to consider what kind of business operational integration you need to drive success. So let's take a look at each one of these and consider what kind of best practices you may be able to apply to your business models. So knowing your customer, it's a simple statement, but I think when I talk to a lot of our clients and we think about what they're trying to do, quite often they take it for granted that they'll be able to deliver content and experiences. What D2C brands need to consider is that data-driven customer experiences should be their core offering. That is essentially their business. Their business is to understand their customers and deliver content and experiences that will engage them. It's easier said than done because we're in a world where content and information and experiences are so proliferating all over the world. So we're wearing devices on our wrists. We're using devices in our cars. We're giving data through IoT. So access to information and data has proliferated, and that causes a challenge that brings complexity. So for you to know your customer, you need a strategy to understand what the data is, what the customer journey is. Quite often the customer journey is very complex. It's not as unidirectional or uni-channel, if you will. It's across channels, it's across devices, and it's not as sequential as it may seem, like when we actually do a customer journey map. So bringing all that data into a single view of the customer is quite important. Unless you understand this customer, you won't be able to drive results. So Nutricia at Danone used Sitecore's experience platform where they captured a single view of the customer and ultimately drove results in terms of sales and loyalty in terms of rebuys. So bringing this data together is critical. and understanding what the customer journey is across each touch point, whether it's your website, email, social, or even offline, and bringing that together in a single view of the customer is critical. It typically starts there rather than thinking about a website, thinking about what you're going to do with email. It starts with thinking about who your customers are and how you're going to get to know them better. And you need the right technology to enable you to make that happen. So if you start to know your customer, then you need to get the experiences right. By that, I mean you need to simplify the experience you offer to them. You need to bring value across the customer experience, and you need to personalize the experience. Simplification, we're seeing brands such as Casper and Allbirds offer limited products versus traditional retailers, in this case, say Raymore and Flanagan, where they're offering variety of mattresses on their websites, but the results that Casper has with a very limited set of products is much better. So what psychologists and physiologists who have actually looked into customer behavior, I think they understand that less is actually more. You need to get the right product to the right customer, and if you limit choices, quite often you deliver a better experience. So simplifying the experience for a customer in terms of what you offer through your channels, personalize the products which are of interest to them versus offering everything to them and leading to analysis paralysis will lead to better results. You also need to think about how you will bring value across the customer experience. So Warby Parker, for example, eliminates concerns with buying online. You can try glasses online. You can there's a prescription process when it comes to actually selecting a product and applying your prescription to it. So they're thinking about ways to eliminate the concerns that customers have when it comes to buying online. So bringing value across the customer journey is critical in terms of you building a better experience for your customers. And all of this is driven by content. Ultimately, content is what fuels the customer experience. So quite often brands and retailers especially have focused on getting the SKUs up, getting the product content up, and assuming that if they build it, customers will come. Quite often that doesn't happen. Ultimately, content is what engages the customer. And you need to deliver this content wherever the customers are, whether it's on your website, mobile experiences, email, wherever the customer chooses to engage with you, you need to deliver all types of content, including video, which is quite important. And ultimately, you also need to build in user-generated content, such as reviews, into your strategy, because your customers are looking at what other buyers are saying about you rather than what you say about yourself. And there's a variety of brands who have executed a user-generated strategy quite well. Glossier actually, they attribute 90% of their revenue to their social strategy. So shoppers interact with this content, they build confidence, and ultimately buy. So building a social strategy, which includes user-generated content, is quite critical to your success. Newton Running used a product that I am a co-founder for. It's a product called Critique. It's a video review platform, which, unlike text reviews, actually gives you the experience of a customer who can, when a customer buys a product, they record reviews, and that review information makes it to a brand's website. And that content can be actually used to drive engagement with customers and ultimately drive commerce. So user-generated content has got to be a key part of your strategy to drive success. And as you have the right content, you've simplified the experience, ultimately you have to treat each customer as they deserve to be treated, as an audience of one. Each customer requires an experience which is personalized. Quite often, we've heard Amazon say that the experience that each customer gets is actually unique. No two customers are probably getting the same experience over their journeys in engaging with Amazon. So every customer deserves an experience which is personalized and relevant. And if customers get the right experience, they engage with brands, and they're likely to buy more. And if they're not getting the right experience, they typically disengage. The research indicates that over 90% of customers have discontinued engagement with brands if they get irrelevant messaging. So getting the right content to the right person at the right time is critical to any strategy that you may have. There are likes of Sephora who personalize particularly well. In the case of Sephora, you can go to their website, pick products, switch to their app. Those products will be available on your shopping cart. You can get very specific mobile app recommendations based on your preferences, based on your past purchase behavior. So what Sephora is recognizing is that each customer needs to be driven to a particular curated content experience rather than them showing up to their products such as a website or the mobile app with a shovel trying to find information, because that does lead to analysis paralysis. So personalization is driving a very simplified, relevant experience to the customer. But all of this actually is driven by underlying technology. You need technology that tracks the data. You need to be able to create a seamless customer experience driven through commerce. And your commerce experience needs to be such that it unifies your experience across all touch points so that you can connect, you understand who the right customer is, get them the right content at the right time, on the right channel, whether it's your website, social, email, and such, and drive business results for yourself in terms of revenue and loyalty. So these new breed of platforms are actually not just platforms that store product information and allow you to offer, say, a shopping cart where a consumer can come and actually select a product and drive results. These new platforms connect content with commerce, ultimately with the consumer. So content is critical to the buying behavior through commerce, leading to an engagement with the consumer. So you need a full feature set besides just content information. You need the right pricing engine, you need the right promotion engine, you need order management, a catalog manager, a profile manager, and there's a variety of platforms out there that help you with commerce. So you have to understand which platform brings content, experience, and ultimately consumer connectivity through a data platform for you to drive success. And you may actually mix some of these platforms together as you try to bring an experience which is relevant to the consumer. So when you have the right information on your customer, you're able to personalize and simplify the experience, and you have the right technology. What happens when it all comes together? So let's take an example of what could potentially happen. So for a brand like First Response, say if I go online, as I was coming up with this case study, I've got two girls. I realized I should know a lot more about pregnancy than I do. So the research was very informative. Two girls later. So if a consumer goes online, searches for an ovulation kit, they find information, and say they click on information, for example, on the First Response planning kit. So this is First Response's website, and there's information about First Response. There's a variety of sort of information which I'll call one size fits all. But when you land on the website, when someone is actually searching for that kit, we know that they clicked on an AdWord around ovulation and landed on the website. We also know that this lady is actually from New York. We may not know who she is, but we know she's from New York based on her geo IP. We also know that this individual is actually on her first visit. She's not visited the website before. This is all the information that we know before this person actually even comes to the website. Further, we know this person's profile. We know what the interest is. We know this person's never bought before. So we can start to profile this customer and understand who she is, what she's looking for, so that we can offer a very relevant experience. So as we understand who this person is, we make an assumption that this person's in the research phase. And instead of offering a one-size-fits-all experience, before she comes to the website's personalized based on all this information we know about her before she even lands on the website, and we personalize the banner. We can personalize the whole page based on each individual customer so that we understand that we are delivering a very personalized and one-to-one experience. We can start to offer more relevant product information, relevant content, which might be of interest to her, based on the fact that we know where she's from and what she's looking for, so that she gets a very relevant experience. We also start to offer reviews because we understand that she's potentially looking at this product. So say she's looked at all this information, we track that she's read information, she goes away, she comes back in a second visit. So we know that she's shown some interest, she hasn't bought. And in this case, she goes and engages with content. We know she's watched a video. She's probably a little more engaged at this point in time. She's looked at reviews. She's read some reviews at this point. She goes away. She comes back. This time she's coming from a competitor site. Based on the IP, we know she's coming from Clearbrew. So we're assuming that at this point, she's probably in the decision phase, looking at different options. And at this stage, we start to offer relevant content, information. We allow her to engage in different channels where she can download an app and start to get information, and we start to actually collect her information based on who she is. So we're building a richer profile with each visit. So from the first, the second to the third visit, we're building a whole profile. And at this point, if she's ready to make a purchase and she clicks buy now, she goes through the purchase process and the product's delivered. We offer incentives for her to buy, and we collect more information about her, and she becomes a customer. Once she becomes a customer, we can start to nurture and cross-sell. We can offer products that we think based on who she is and where she is in her journey. We can offer products which are relevant to her. We can also offer information which is relevant to her in terms of how she can manage her pregnancy, what resources she might need. And this is all personalized based on every visit she has, where the homepage or the inner pages are changing based on the profile that we built. So this is an example of someone who has engaged, and she's now on the social platforms, and we're understanding who she is. We're engaging through different mediums. But what we've done is we've used content and we use context to drive commerce. So instead of just having a simple product page where she can go buy, look up products and actually make a purchase, we've actually understood her context, and in each interaction, we've delivered a one-to-one experience which actually helps her through her customer journey and actually make a purchase, become a loyal user of the product and the brand, and then actually buy other products through her journey. So this is an example of a one-to-one contextual commerce experience. But that's just not enough. This is sort of the front end, the experience, the content. But quite often the trick is integrating business operations, which can be complex and tricky. And this is where Dharesh will talk about his thoughts around integrating operations. Over to you, Dharesh.
Thank you, Rahul. Okay, so integrated business. What do we mean? So I think having the front end, which Rahul just went through, is all very well and good that you have the front end ready. But one of the important aspects of direct-to-consumer is to make sure you have your order processing, warehouse, logistics, effectively your supply chain, also ready. Why do you need to do that? Well, if you look at the customer expectation, which Rahul went through earlier, so a customer expectation or a consumer expectation these days is you have to have your goods within, on their doorsteps within 24 to 48 hours. That's what the expectation is. Therefore, you've got to look at that from your back-end perspective. So if you look at the process that we have from a back-end, first of all, it's order processing. So you have your orders, and remember, when you go direct to consumers, it's not the same as going to B2B, because direct to consumers, you're going to have more volume of orders. There's going to be more orders more frequently. So you're going to be processing potentially a lot more products, orders than you normally would. So you've got to get your order processing efficiently through your ERP systems. As I said, orders will increase, and importantly, you look at your order process in your ERP system. So you have things like credit limits, etc., per orders, etc. So make sure you cover all those pieces, and the order needs to get, once it comes out from the front end, it needs to get to the warehouse to shipment as quickly as possible. So then that brings in, so say orders processed, it comes into the warehouse logistics side of things. So what are we doing at the warehouse? We're going to be picking the order, we're going to be packing the order, and then we're going to be shipping. Again, there's a huge difference between B2B and direct to consumers. You're going to have many orders that the warehouse team have to deal with. So a lot more orders to pick, a lot more orders to pack, and then the shipping. So in terms of picking, you've got to really look at, there could be orders with multiple items. So you could be picking a number of different items for a single order. So what that means is you've got to have your warehouse managed correctly to manage the traffic, the increased traffic that you're going to do, the increased number of picks you're going to get, etc. Your warehouse needs to be optimized. You could do this with more manpower, or you could do the automated warehouse. Number of different ways you could do that. That's all on the picking side, and then the packing. How do you consolidate that order and make sure that order effectively is correct and goes out to the right individuals, also with the tracking numbers, etc., that we have to do. So that packing and shipping sort of comes after you've done your picking. So from a shipping perspective, again, the key challenges are you're going to have to work with your shippers. You're going to have to negotiate your pricing, etc., for shipping small orders. So you could have one item that you're shipping or 10 items that you're shipping. The cost of the shipping costs, you have to really go back to your shippers and negotiate all that and how you're going to ship. In terms of warehousing as well, as I said earlier, you could maybe have to have different warehouses. You may have a central warehouse, single warehouse in the country that, from a shipping perspective, cost a lot more. So you may want to open warehouses that are effectively regional, and those warehouses deal regionally. Therefore, you can have your SLAs of 24 to 48 hours. Really make sure you manage those. So the shipment is important. Make sure you agree with your shippers of what that is. You also have to decide is what's your limit in terms of when do you offer free shipping versus charge for shipping. Again, that'll certainly be an impact on your customers or when they choose and why they choose you as well. So number of items that you have to think of in terms of putting the back end, order processing, warehouse, and logistics. And then one thing don't forget is the returns process. So again, we all know from a direct to consumers, we've all done it. We put a number of things on Amazon or whichever site, and we've sent the goods back. That's something that you've got to really look at and see how you're going to manage that. How are you going to manage your returns? Where are they going to be received? And once they're received, how are you going to validate that this is a genuine return? Number of business processes and business decisions that you have to make there. And once you've made those sort of decisions and agreed on your decisions on validation, you then have to process that return within your ERP systems. So what do you do with the goods returned? How do you then make the customer good in terms of, do you pay them or do you send them a replacement part, etc.? So at the back end, there are a number of things that you must consider in terms of the full customer service supply chain side of things. So really, I just wanted to bring that to the forefront, saying it's all good, and I think marketeers tend to focus on the front end and get the consumers engaged. But at the back end, we've got to make sure that service to the consumer is top notch. And I think these are some of the key things that you must consider, before you embark on the direct to consumer. And I think one of the things Rahul said, there's a number of failures, and I think the failures are often at the back end where there isn't the capacity to manage the orders that you're getting in and the consumer expectation. So if the customer is expecting something in 2 days and you ship it in 5 days or something, that customer is not going to come back to you. They're going to go elsewhere. So really, to conclude on the service and the customer needs is, don't just focus on the front end. At the same time, start thinking about the back end and start looking at optimizing the order journey through your ERP systems, CRM systems, etc. So I think that's my bit on here, Rahul. I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Diresh. That was really insightful. I think we see ourselves that building the front end is simple. We build all these product e-commerce sites, and we go live, and we think that the results would come, but we find that it's ultimately the supply chain, the integration with business operations. It's managing simple, helping with customer service, managing the receiving, the validation, the payments. That's where typically actually the issues happen. The front end, there are known strategies to make that happen. There are known strategies to drive results, but I think quite often in focusing on the front end, we find that businesses don't really integrate their business operations that well, and that's where failures actually come, because you have points of failure. We're not shipping products on time. Your payment systems are failing. Your products are actually disappearing because the catalog's not integrating well. So there's a variety of issues that you run into. So integrating your supply chain properly ensures that you get business results. So thank you for that. So back to the moderator. I'd love to open it up for questions. I see a few streaming in, but would love to hear any questions that we may have at this point.
Thanks, Rahul, Diresh. This was really insightful. We actually do have a lot of questions coming in. To the audience, we'll do the Q&A for the next, say, 5 to 10 minutes. If you still have any questions, just drop them by. I'll start taking these one by one. We have a question from Jenny, and I'm assuming it's a she. What are the challenges that brands face when it comes to fulfillment? I believe, Diresh, you could take this up.
Sure. Yeah, so again, fulfillment, I think, again, the thing is you have to have your product in hand. So that's first piece. And the second piece, as I said before, is that making sure that you can get that product out to the consumer with your SLAs. So one, product must be available. Often you go to these sites and see the product not available, not available. So once you've done that, got the product available, and then how quickly can you move it through your ERP system? So the challenge is exactly what I said earlier. How quickly you can get it to warehouses, and how often do the shippers come and pick your parcels up to do it? So some companies have a rule to say if you order before 4 o'clock, that product's going to be on your doorstep by 9 o'clock the following day. So again, the fulfillment piece is really important, and I think that's the thing, that's the glue. The fulfillment sticks everything together, because if you have a great front end but your fulfillment is bad, it doesn't matter how good it is. So that's where the back end piece is. So hopefully that's the question. Yeah.
Thanks. We have the next question from CJ. What technologies do you use to capture consumer intent and context? Rahul, I believe this you could possibly take it up.
Sure, it's a question I get actually asked quite often. So by consumer context and information, you're probably talking about how do we capture that single view of the customer. So single view of the customer is actually a fallacy. It's very difficult to actually capture all data points because there's just so many. So I think the first question we got to ask ourselves is what data across the customer journey is going to be beneficial to understand who the customer is and then deliver a more relevant customer experience. So as you understand the consumer better, you can deliver a better customer experience, which is relevant. So understanding what data you will need. Then you've got a variety of options. So the underlying technologies that can track data, there's a variety of them. So I think it starts with saying, we'll need third-party data, which is external to you. Then you'll need first-party data, which is, say, someone on your website, from your CRM. And second-party data could be, with partners. So you need the ability to bring all of that data into that sort of single view, and then to be able to sort of activate that data to drive marketing. So to accomplish that, you have a variety of options. So on the front end, you'll have platforms, engagement platforms, so a CMS, you'll have marketing automation, and a variety of e-commerce platforms that can store customer data. Our belief is that because channels are proliferating, you may consider actually abstracting customer data into a sort of a term that's emerging called a customer data platform. So a variety of our clients, what they're doing is that they're pulling all their data into sort of this CDP, a customer data platform, from different channels. And when the data is available in a customer data platform, it should be available in terms of being activated for marketing. So if you were to move all that data to, say, a data warehouse, that's great, you can get insights, but you may not be able to activate it in real time for marketing. So say if someone comes to the website and you want to drive an emailer out to them based on certain behavior, a customer data platform can actually help you accomplish that. So a CDP is one route you can take where you can bring data from different channels, so social, mobile, web, email, and even offline. And then you can use that data for a particular customer and then actually activate marketing based on segments and campaigns that you're running. So that's one option. The other is to use one of these systems of engagement. So the analytics systems out there that you can bring data into and activate it for marketing. So there's a variety of options, but it has a huge impact on how you're able to market and what systems you're able to use personalized experiences through. So it's important to pick the right option for yourself. So whether it's a CDP, a system of engagement, or even a data warehouse, you can use all these options, but ultimately you have to ask yourself how quickly can you capture the data and activate it for real-time marketing, because that's ultimately the purpose to drive engagement, personalization, and finally conversion.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I'm gonna pick one for Diresh. This seems like more down his alley. What are brands doing to get products to consumer fast? Diresh, I believe you take this up.
Yeah, sure. Again, automation is very important in terms of getting the products to the consumers. So one of the things I would suggest is, if you're looking into this, is if you measure how long it takes you to get from order to shipment. If you do that today, you'll see gaps in your process where you can automate and improve. So again, it's that supply chain. It's your get that order to the warehouse as quickly as possible, and make sure you're picking, picking as soon as possible. And if the picking is automated, it's going to be a lot quicker than if it is manual. Again, that avoids mistakes, etc. So again, the automation side of it, from a warehouse perspective, is going to be really important to get that product out quickly. And the other piece I would say is, again, don't overpromise to the consumer. So don't tell them that you're going to ship in 48 hours if you know your current process it's going to be 3 days rather than 2 days. So again, look at that. Be realistic on what you can achieve. So the automation of the order processing is the quickest way to get that order to the consumer.
Great. So I'm going to take the final two questions. A part of this one has been covered actually earlier, but if Rahul, you could just elaborate on how important is personalization. Uh, and the next question again is quite related to this one. What are the technology challenges that D2C brands face?
Right. So personalization is quite simple, right? We live in a world where we're inundated with information, so we have attention deficit and information overload, right? And if you're trying to get information to anyone, put yourself in the shoes of the customer, what would you prefer? Would you want to go to an Amazon.com and get a one-size-fits-all experience? I think so. Personalization is actually hygiene. So the importance of personalization cannot be overstated. It's a strategy actually where organizations suffer. Sometimes they try to do too much. And what we find is they try to sort of boil the ocean. So the journey with personalization, if I will, that I would typically guide a client around would be start with first understanding the customer. So build that, single view of the customer, try to capture data from your website, from email, from CRM systems, from social media. So you're trying to build a rich view of customer, and that quite sometimes takes time. So instead of, what I see organizations do is they'll start with quick website personalization, and they get limited results because they're not actually orchestrating personalization across the customer journey. Because as the customer comes to the website, you may want to target them with email or display ads, etc. So it's important to first build that customer insight through data in a single view of the customer. So once you have that profile, a rich profile of the customer across channels, then you can start to actually ask yourself what level of personalization you may drive. So quite often what I recommend to clients is start with single channel personalization based on certain profiles. So you can segment your customers, and these segments you can look at based on the data that you have, and then you can start to do personalization, say on the website. Then you can extend that across channels. So quite often what brands would do is connect email with web. So they're doing personalization, say, cart abandonment is a good one. It's a simple one. So you're trying to drive conversion, you're trying to drive engagement. So linking email with web is a common one. We're linking web to perhaps display ads based on someone's viewing a product and they leave their website is another one. So once you start to have the rich data and your technology is connected, you can start to do channel personalization to begin with. Then you can move on to cross-channel personalization. And ultimately, you can get to one-to-one personalization where you can apply machine learning, where you need more advanced technologies, but you need rich data, you need connectivity across channels to be able to drive one-to-one personalization that may be driven through machine learning. So it's a journey, but it starts with capturing data and then sort of walking before you run and doing channel personalization, and then moving on to more advanced capabilities across channels, and then one-to-one personalization through machine learning. So all those things are ultimately accomplished in journeys, and having the right roadmap ahead of you will help. And the underlying technology that helps you drive personalization. So there's very specific personalization technologies that organizations use. So whether it's Adobe's platforms around targeting, or there are CMSs such as Sitecore that have inbuilt personalization, or marketing automation platforms that have inbuilt personalization. So all those options are available. I think what we have to understand is, what are the different channels of engagement? What capabilities do you have in terms of doing personalization, and what in terms of what you need? And then how do you orchestrate that through connecting all these channels together? So using technologies either built into these systems of engagement, like a web CMS platform or a commerce platform, um, as opposed to using perhaps a standalone technology. So you have options there depending on what you have. So there's no one simple answer, unfortunately. But what's more important is to understand what roadmap you're going to take, and then how you're going to deploy these technologies to drive results.
Awesome. With that, I'll close the Q&A session now. To the audience, if you have any questions from Rahul or Diresh, please write to us at marketing@alltutor.co. We'd love to get their inputs, get their answers, and send them across to you. Um, Thank you so much for being patient, and thanks Rahul and Diresh for joining us today.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Yeah,
Thanks.
bye.